Welcome to the Marquette Hoops Basketball Show. My name is John Dodds. Tom Pippins is on assignment. Thanks to our sponsor, Moonlight Graham, Modern Dental Benefits. The theme of our show is We Live in the Past so you don't have to. We'll look and try to preserve the Marquette rich heritage, and we'll look at the present team. We'll follow Shaka Smart around the world as he tries to add to his 2022 and 2023 recruiting classes. We'll also follow the transfer portal, and this week there was some news as Greg Elliott, the redshirt junior, decided to transfer to Pittsburgh. The 6'3" combo two-guard small forward had been with Marquette since 2017. He'll be transferring to the ACC and Pittsburgh to play for Jeff Capel, former Duke Blue Devil star. Elliott was one of the biggest characters I've covered in my 45 years of watching Marquette basketball. Steve Wojciechowski and Shaka Smart also said that he was the best team player and was going to be a great coach. He was very smart, picked up on all the nuances, and so we wish Greg Elliott the best. He was here for an injury-plagued 4 years and then sat out a year. He's got one more year, his sixth year with Pittsburgh, and we wish him the best. In this next segment, we'll pick it up with author Joe Moran, who wrote the Al McGuire biography, You Can Call Me Al. This is brought to you by Moonlight Graham Modern Dental Benefits. One of the legendary stories in that run to the Final Four was the St. Patrick's Day game against Kansas State. And Kansas State had Mike Evans, who later played for the Bucks, very good guard. They had a very good team, and this is going to be a tough game. I believe it was Oklahoma City, was it played? I think it was in Oklahoma City. And Marquette was struggling to start off the game. And they had a player who had transferred from Michigan State by the name of Jim Dudley, who was kind of the original cloud piercer. He was about 6'7", had about a 38-inch vertical jump. He was really a jumper.
A ballerina in the sky, Al called him.
And he never played that much, but when Al was riding his motorcycle around Oklahoma, Hank was at practice, and he noticed that Dudley had really improved and was playing great, doing everything that they wanted. So Al was telling, Hank was telling Al about that, and Al was like, just whatever. So they're down by 13 points in the first half, and nothing was going on. It might have even been 14. And I remember Al was just, Hank said something to Al, and Al looks up, and he's walking, he's pacing up and down. And on the bench, there was Jim Dudley, who had bleached blonde hair and looked like David Bowie. He looked the image of David Bowie. Even as a 17-year-old kid, I said, that guy looks like David Bowie. So he was sitting there, I think he was talking to Mark Lavin or one of the walk-ons, and they were looking, either they saw a pretty girl or something in the stands, and he wasn't even paying any attention, and they're kind of pointing and laughing at something, and Al stops, turns, goes down, and goes, get in the game. And Dudley, I remember went, me? He went up, and he comes in, he comes right in, hits a shot, gets a three-point play, the old traditional way, and then gets a couple rebounds, and he was the spark that they brought the team closer. So in the second half, the team was cut the lead down, and he could sense that, Al could sense that the pressure was getting to Kansas State. So Al takes his tie, and he signals the choking, and the referees, who didn't like Al from the 1974 championship game where he called two technicals on him and essentially ended Marquette's chances for a win that game, stopped the game and called a technical on Al. When Al was really signaling to Boylan, I think they're choking, we're getting them or whatever. And Al just looked, and he went, I just saw his shoulders went down. He sat next to Hank, and he turned to Hank on the bench. Hank told me later, and he said, if we lose this game, they're going to ride me out of Milwaukee on a rail that I blew it with another technical. And I'll throw it over to Joe for the...
Al, as you mentioned, John, the pressure, because Al put all the pressure on himself with that announcement in December of '76. He put the pressure on himself to take it away from the team. And as the pressure was getting tighter in that Kansas State game, Al turned to Hank and said, if we lose this game, I'm through forever. In other words, he saw his career passing before his eyes, and that if Marquette lost this game, he was done. The referee who blew the technical was a man named Jim Buckowitz. And Al told the team that, he put the hand to the throat. He said, K-State's choking. They're tightening up. Now, Al said that the referee was not looking his way, that the referee was already headed down court. And he said, how could he see me, and how could he know that I'm talking to the referees instead of my players? And so he gets teed up. And then what really upset Al when he went into the press room after the game was that the referee did not come to him and let him explain what he was doing and talking to the players, and he wasn't talking to the referee. And then when Al took a few questions, Bob Bach told me that Al was fuming as he was going into the press room. And he answered a few questions with just very, very short and terse answers, and then he went on his 15-minute tirade, which...
a famous tirade.
Which was one of the most, probably the most emotional I've heard and seen Al McGuire ever. It was, the pressure was on him, and he knew that if they didn't win this game, and they didn't win this tournament, that he was through. And so I think it was just a reaction to that pressure that forced that tirade during the press conference after the game.
He knew that the NCAA hated to be called the NC2A. And so he would say, the NC2A, am I paranoid? And he said, they're out to get me. And it went on for 15 or so minutes. That St. Patrick's Day game went down, and he said it was the luck of the Irish maybe that Al McGuire won that game.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
What other thoughts do you have about Al and the 77 season as you look back 45 years later after they beat North Carolina for their first and, to this point, only championship on the national
John,
level?
I'll let you start.
It's just a great time. It just, we remember it like it was yesterday. And so just like Scott Van Pelt said about Maryland, you have that once-in-a-lifetime chance. You got to celebrate it. And, it was great to see when you see Butch Lee, or when you talk to Bo Ellis about the throw down to Butch Lee's throw to Bo. They were trying for a Christian Leitner play at the end of the Charlotte game, and the ball came in too hot. And in Cornbread, Maxwell went for it, and it tipped off their hands to Whitehead, who put it in. That's the greatest shot in Marquette history. There's no doubt the gravitas of the moment. But it's just great to see that the university we love and the athletics that we follow, they did have that one shining moment, and we'll never forget it.
The win, as Bob Bach told me, put Milwaukee on the map. Now, actually,
the Braves might have. But.
Yeah, when the Braves won the World Series with Hank Aaron in 1957, and then of course they were in the World Series again the next year. So I always felt that put Milwaukee on the map. But I think that was just a way for modern times for younger people to realize that Milwaukee and Marquette are in Wisconsin.
Yeah, it certainly put your
Michigan.
alma mater on the map.
Yes, and it's certainly a great point of pride, and what Marquette always did it the right way, and Al always did it the right way, and I think the greatness of Marquette is they've always been a very, very competitive basketball program that is competing with the elite basketball programs in the country and still winning, and always going for doing things the right way. And I think that's a point of pride for all alums. And you take a look at all of the programs in elite programs like Kentucky, where during a 6-decade period they were on probation at least once a decade. And so, Marquette's never been in that position, and I think that's a great point of pride for all of us.
Absolutely.
What puts in perspective is Shaka Smart has said on numerous occasions this year that he was born the year after that happened. So he's 44 years old.
Right.
We're looking back at a 45-year-old record and event.
Without question, which takes us to Shaka Smart and getting the team back to the big dance. And Joe, he really has bought into the great tradition of the Marquette program, hasn't he? Not every coach has, but he is more than willing. He knows the history. He knows key people who have been part of the program, vis-a-vis Bo Ellis, staying connected. That's really a plus, isn't it?
I do think that coaches like Coach Smart and Tom Crean, who have been very, very good about bringing the great players of Marquette's past back to the program and having them talk to the current players to give them a sense of this is the history, this is an incredible legacy. I don't know, Tom, if you were at the 100th anniversary event for Marquette at the Bradley Center.
Yes, I certainly remember it.
5
I was
years
not
ago.
there, but yeah.
To see all of those former players and coaches there talking about the great legacy. You probably remember, John, that Jay Billis was the MC that night. And just to have all of that greatness come back and be a part of what the program is going through now. Tom Crean made it a big, big point to make sure that the young players knew what they had to build on.
That's right.
And I believe Shaka has taught these young guys what the program is about and what they can build on. And to the young players' credit, they have bought into Shaka Smart's defense-first philosophy and to give everything they can on the court and play defense with violence.
Yeah, isn't that great?
You know,
In that context, it's okay.
But Marquette has always been a basketball program that's been known for defense and for great guard play. And I think that's continuing with Shaka Smart. He's somebody who is connecting with the players. I think the fact that he's 44 years old, he's close enough in age to the players to know what they're going through and what it is like to try to go through growing up and playing Division I basketball. But he's old enough to have their respect based on what he's accomplished, especially taking VCU to the Final Four back in 2011 and having an incredible head coaching career. So there's that mutual respect from the players and the coach and vice versa.
John's taking notes, so whenever he does, I've got to get his thoughts. But we've talked about Shaka Smart, Marquette fans in the area. I think there's so much enthusiasm over this man who could have been hired 7 years ago. Maybe this is God's timing, man. It's just fabulous. In your Chicagoland area, Joe, how do you feel people around you who talk about the Marquette program for which you have so much passion? Are they as enthused about this man and his ability to take this team and maybe be a perennial entrant into the big dance?
When the selection was made by Marquette, people I know in the Chicago area said, boy, Marquette got a good one. They got a good coach, and they believe that he's going to keep Marquette on an upward trajectory from here on out. And they felt that, maybe Marquette should have hired him 7 years or so ago.
Yeah.
But things work out in college programs for a reason. And with this, I think at this point, as I told Bill Scholl, the most impressive thing about Shaka Smart before he came here to Marquette is that he paid his dues. Paid his dues as an assistant, paid his dues as a head coach, and now I think that's going to come to fruition with the beginning of this NCAA tournament and Marquette's place in it. It's the first time Marquette's been in the tournament I believe it's 3 years now. This is the first tournament in 3 years, and Marquette has not won a game in the tournament in 9 years when Buzz Williams was the head coach. So I think it's time to make that transition to getting a winning postseason program, and I think that this will be the start of it for Shaka Smart.
Terrific. John?
Sure, it was the Miami game, I believe, in Washington, D.C. I think that was the last game that Marquez won the tournament. But I thought Steve the Homer True called it when we had him on a few weeks ago. He's probably interacted with Shaka more than anybody else has. And he said that he's struck by how comfortable Shaka is in his own skin in that. And when he said that, I thought, usually coaches are tightly wound and they're under a lot of pressure and they're control freaks. And they don't like the media because they can't control what's written about them or what they're going to say. Or they maybe not will not embrace the past because they don't know what the old player is going to say. But he embraces that, and he's kind of matter of fact about it and welcomes all the old players. Wesley Matthews gave a great speech in front of the team this year when he was in town. Actually, when he came to the Bucks, that's what it was, when he first joined the Bucks, I think it was in January. And then Doc Rivers has too. So he's embraced the professional athlete that have come in the past athletes of Marquette, which is even Butch Lee when he was here said that, and Bo and others have mentioned that. So it's a positive, and he sees that it's a positive. And I think some of the other coaches that might have missed an opportunity.
You know, John has shared this, and he's seen it up close and personal. Shaka has a great relationship with his players, doesn't he? He cares for them, they care for him, and they want to win for Shaka Smart.
Of course they do, because he puts them first and foremost. But he also understands the importance of education and making sure that, because basketball is just going to be a sliver of their lives, that they need to make sure that they take care of business in the classroom. And Shaka is all about that as well. And because of that, he stays on top of it, and he makes sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do in and out of the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
There was when I interviewed Al back in '99, and I did it over the phone where I went to the radio station because I just wanted to have him go for as long as possible, and he went 65 minutes. So just put your feet up, and otherwise he would be in there for about 10 minutes and then probably leave. So he was comfortable. And I remember I had 16 areas of questions, and I knew we were going to be rambling and hit him in no uncertain order. But one of the softballs I was going to throw at him was Bob Huggins had a very bad graduation rate at Cincinnati at the time. I think they had won in the last decade. So about 2 weeks before the interview, Jim Chones had come back. Jim Chones left in the middle of his junior year to go to the ABA. And then he had a great NBA career with the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Lakers, won a title, and then he became a broadcaster. But he never got his degree until 1999. At Marquette, he came back and he finally got his degree, and it was on the front page of the Journal. So I said to Al, and I thought I was throwing him a softball that he was going to turn on and just take it, the distance in the power alley. And I said, Coach, did you see that article about Jim Chones in the paper? And he goes, yep, Jimmy Chones from Racine St. Catharines. He said, yep, came back after 27 years and got his degree, proud of Jimmy. And I said, you know what that means, Coach? And he said, what? That means in the 1990s, you have the same graduation rate as Coach Huggins from Cincinnati. Okay, so I just wanted to see what he would say. And he said, oh, no, John. Oh, no, we made sure our guys went to class. I said, no, Coach. What I meant, and I explained it, and he goes, no. I'm going to write a note. And he writes this, I could just say he's writing a note. I'm going to call Hank as soon as I hang up with you, and I'm going to ask him to give you the graduation rates, because we wanted to make sure these guys went on after basketball. They had a degree to fall back on, and we weren't going to use them. They were going to use basketball to further themselves in life and after their career's over. And so then finally I just gave it up, and I just turned to our engineers and said, we'll just cut that out of there.
You don't want to give Al McGuire pushback.
Right.
You knew when to say when.
Just all right, whatever. I mean, so
he wanted his players to have 2 loaves of bread under their arms. That's what he felt, and that was his way of making sure that they, went on to bigger and better things after they left Marquette. And Al would always remind the guys in the early 70s, as Al would describe that era, as the hand grenades in their, arms days, that, when you leave here and you're going to go for your interview at IBM or wherever you're going to be going to get a job, make sure you leave your love beads at home and put on a nice white shirt and tie when you go for your interview, because this is the world that you're going to be going into.
Like Shaka Smart, he cared so much, Al McGuire did, for his players. And you remember that comment, I'm sure, fellas, where he said, don't let basketball use you, you use basketball.
Exactly. And that was part of when he was growing up, when his brother Dick played at St. John's. By the time he was a senior, he was a great basketball player at St. John's, and Bob Cousy told me that Dick McGuire was the prototype of what we know today as the point guard. And he said, I looked up to Dick McGuire on the playgrounds when we were playing ball. And at the end of Dick McGuire's 4 years at St. John's, he had a total of 60 credit hours of classes. And Al felt that St. John's had used Dick for his talent. I don't know if Dick ever did earn his degree at St. John's. I have no idea. But Al took an extra summer after his senior year at St. John's to finish his business degree, because he did not want to have happen to him what happened to Dick. So he always told his players that, you've got to do it. You mentioned Jim Jones coming back and earning his degree. He earned his degree the same year that his daughter, Carita, earned her college degree at Marquette.
Amazing.
So for both of them to be able to be in that graduating class was an incredible point of pride for Jim Jones.
I think I could sit here and listen to the two of you guys go down memory lane all day into the evening, but why don't we kind of wrap up just with some general thoughts, both about the Marquette program, getting to the tournament, winning it all for the first, and to this point, right? Maybe it'll happen again, only time. And certainly as we look with great expectation to the future for the Golden Eagles now under Shaka Smart.
With, we're just 5 years away, John, from the 50th anniversary of that national title. And how time does fly. And I do believe that with Shaka in place and his culture being nurtured in the players and his agenda and game plan being put forward, it will probably take him a couple of years, get more of his players into the program who understand what it is that he's looking for and going forward. And I think building on what happens beginning tomorrow and into the next few years, we could see some really good basketball in the postseason, probably within the next few years and beyond.
I think patience is going to be required, because this was a very young team where 9 players were in their first or second years of basketball, and then you had players like Tyler Kolek coming in from another situation where he had to change positions. He was a point guard here. He was a 2 guard last year for George Mason. So, but and next year they have 3 very good freshmen coming in, and depending on what Justin Lewis does, and that's 50-50 whether he's going to return. If you have NBA money, you gotta, whether you're ready or not, you gotta get it for your family. But when Pip, you said that you could sit here all day and listen to us, I thought then the next line was and I thought I was gonna have to sit here and listen to it. So, but I want to point to Joe, if you can talk about your books for a second, and how you can order those, because those are the Al McGuire is the read when you want to know about how Al got to be Al.
It's funny you bring it up, because after the book was out a while and Pat McGuire had a chance to read it, and
Al's better half,
and with her friends, and whenever she would talk to them, she would say, "This is the Bible." And
That's saying a lot, Joe.
and
Kudos to you for that.
thank
and the
you. You're
trust
very
that
kind.
you earned with the family. I mean, that was huge because Al didn't.
No.
He wasn't big on this kind of thing, was he?
No, but I was politely persistent for a few years, and as I had mentioned in a previous episode, that Al was hemming and hawing for some time, and I finally said to George Reedy, I said, I really want to do this, and I said, we don't know how much longer he's going to be around, and I said, I'm prepared to go unauthorized if that's what it's going to take. And he said, if you do that, be prepared to have a lot of doors slammed in your face, because Al's friends are extremely loyal, and he's loyal to them. So it took a while, but when I met him on Labor Day weekend in Pewaukee at his small office at the Harkin Industrial Complex in Pewaukee, and we sat for 3.5 hours just talking, and he said, but you don't really know me. He said, Roger Janes has traveled with me, all over. He's been with me to garage sales and restaurants and
The old Journal reporter.
Yeah,
and
another
tournament
great
games.
writer.
And so he said, I think what you're doing by doing all this research at the archives, he said, it seems like it's just too theoretical. I had no idea that Al knew what theoretical was. So I said, what it's like is there are so many areas of your life that what I'm doing is I'm just taking those pieces, like putting a puzzle together. And that's how I'm going about this. And then he kind of stopped, and I think that image of creating, putting a puzzle together clicked with his images, his imagery. And I think that's what he kind of glommed onto. And at the end of our conversation, he said, it's your book, it's your baby. You do whatever you want to.
Boy, that was a seminal moment, huh?
You talk to anybody you want to. And once we had arrived at that point, he said, now, it's important that you get the name Flower Child in the title of the book. It's got to be brought in there somewhere.
Well, that's our show for today. Thanks to our sponsor, Moonlight Graham, who makes this all possible, Modern Dental Benefits. Our shows will be archived at my website, marquettehoops.com. If you would like to be kept abreast of future guests and other events from Marquette basketball, please drop your email and we can send you our free newsletter. Please drop it in this widget at marquettehoops.com. Some of our old shows are archived, so if you have any Marquette fans out of town, please send them a link via email to that site. Until next week, thanks for joining us on the marquettehoops.com basketball show.